Unleash the power of knowledge and connect with the heartbeat of the African diaspora. Download our African Diaspora News Channel app now on Google Play and Apple App Store. Stay informed with authentic and diverse perspectives, breaking news, and cultural insights. Immerse yourself in a community that celebrates unity, resilience, and progress. Experience the vibrancy of the diaspora at your fingertips. Don't miss out. Empower your perspective today. Search African Diaspora News Channel and join the conversation.
Timelang absheni ralocha sanwanani molweni. My name is Naledi Mfoloe, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the latest edition of the African Diaspora News Channel, where we unravel the stories that shape our world and our communities. Now, Chad has made a history as it officially ended its defense cooperation agreement with France and took control of its last French military base. Now, France had maintained a heavy military presence in Chad for decades, positioning itself as a key counterterrorism partner in the region. But now, in the wake of the rising anti-French sentiment and an increasing desire for sovereignty, Chad has decided it's time to chart its own course is now. Now, this is just the latest chapter in a series of moves by African nations to reassert control over their own defense and security policies. And Chad's announcement that it will now look to redefine its strategic partnership is quite significant, because it's not just about ending a relationship with France, it's about taking full control of its own security and moving towards an independent defense strategy. And Chad's military forces, despite the challenges they face, have actually proven themselves capable of managing their own affairs. And now they have the opportunity to actually do so without the shadow of foreign troops in their backyard. And what I find interesting and a bit alarming is that Chad is not alone in this shift. Just last year, Senegal and Ivory Coast also made moves to actually expel French troops. And the reality is France is facing a major rethinking of its role on the continent. And the question is, who will fill the vacuum left by France's departure? I think it's a very clear trend forming in the Sahel countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. After outing French forces, they've actually shifted closer to Russia. And the Russian mercenaries, particularly those from the Wagner Group, have been deployed in the region, filling the gap left by French. And you have to ask yourself, what does this mean for Africa's future? Let's have a look.
Наверное, так удобнее на кого-то обижаться, не видя при этом своих собственных проблем. Ну, может быть такая острая реакция, достаточно эмоциональная со стороны французского президента, связана в том числе и с тем, что происходит и в некоторых африканских государствах. Хотя я знаю и другие страны Африки, где спокойно относятся к французскому пребыванию и говорят, что да, нас устраивает, мы готовы с ними работать. Но в некоторых странах не хотят. Но мы здесь ни при чем. Мы никого там не подзуживаем, никого не настраиваем против Франции.
And here's the thing, right? Russia's growing presence in Africa is not just a matter of convenience. Russia, like France before it, has its own interests on the continent. Resources, influence, strategic alliances, we don't know. So as African nations pivot away from Western powers, we're seeing a reorientation of alliances, and the question remains, is this really in the best interest of African nations? I mean, for some, Russia represents a fresh alternative to the Western influence, no longer having to rely on the same old powers that have historically seen Africa as a playground for resources and geopolitical gains. But I can't help but feel a bit cautious here, because are we simply trading one foreign power for another? Or is Africa truly ready to take control of its own security and resources without slipping into the hands of new foreign players? Now, back to Chad, right? The end of France's military presence here. I believe it's undoubtedly a momentous occasion, but it's not without its risk. Because Chad has long been the gatekeeper of security in the Sahel, often acting as a buffer between the extremist groups in the north and more stable regions in the south. And I think that without France's support, Chad will need to bolster its own capabilities and find new partners, perhaps maybe even closer to home. But in many ways, I believe this is exactly what we need across the continent. Africa can no longer afford to rely on former colonial powers for its security. The future of Africa's defense and security should rest in the hands of Africans with African solutions to African problems. And the challenge, of course, will be ensuring that African nations can build and maintain strong, united, and self reliant security forces capable of addressing the complex challenges we face. But I believe that the move by Chad is part of a larger awakening on the continent. It's a reminder that Africa must stop being a passive player in the global politics and actually start defining its own path forward. And yes, there are significant challenges ahead. And yes, we must be cautious about the influence of new powers like Russia. But the overall takeaway is clear. Africa is taking charge. Whether it's Chad, Mali, or any other African nation, we're witnessing a reshaping of the continent's military and geopolitical future. And I'll be honest, right? I'm excited to see this shift, and I'm also realistic because Africa does have the power to be a global power, but it can only do if we take control of our military, economic, and diplomatic destinies. This is just the beginning. The question is, are we ready to take the leap? What do you think? Is Chad's decision to expel French troops a bold step towards independence, or is it a gamble? Are we witnessing the beginning of a new African security order? And how will the rest of the continent respond? We'd like to hear from you. Please, let's continue the conversation in the comment section and keep the conversation going. And while you're at it, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. That's it from me.